Stanley the Ugly Duckling is pretty sweet. This is an animated show that was released originally in 1982. It's directed by John Wilson and it's written by Norman Martin and Lee Pockriss. And we have a voice casting Susan Blue as Stanley and Jack DeLeon as Nathan. And Nathan is a fox. And it is a version of the classic Ugly Duckling story where the ugly duckling, Stanley, feels like he is not appealing. He doesn't look as good as everybody else. He has huge self-esteem issues. And he meets a fox called Nathan, and the fox helps him to learn about what it means to have self-esteem and to not worry about what others think of you. Before he gets the chance to tell that message, though, we encounter some other really unpleasant birds, but they have a really fabulous animation design, and the clothes they're wearing look fantastic, but they're not very nice characters. And then, ultimately, and this is of course a spoiler, the Ugly Duckling learns the importance of self-esteem. In a moment, I will tell you how that comes about, because I thought it was pretty brilliant and really well done. It is, of course, a classic story. I think this is a really great version of it. There are definitely elements of this that I hadn't seen in other versions. Many versions of the Ugly Duckling by this point, and whenever something offers something a little bit different, a little bit fresh, it's really exciting, and this definitely fills that criteria for something that's different, a little bit unique, really great characters. It's ticking all of those boxes. Stanley is so likable. I love the animation design of him. He's so cute. He's not ugly. There is nothing about him that's ugly, but it doesn't affect the story at all. And I think the pacing is great. The whole thing is just under half an hour, which is the perfect length of time to tell this story, to build an emotional connection with the characters, and to ultimately deliver this important message about the value of self-esteem. And I think it's rather delightful. And I will now explain with a spoiler warning what happens at the end and how Stanley learns this message, because it's really beautiful and something that I think anybody watching this, if they feel like Stanley, can actually put into practice. So this is a spoiler from now. At the end, Nathan actually asks Stanley to say 3 words in turn: I, like, and myself. And Stanley can say that. He can say those 3 words independently. But then he asks Stanley to say them together. I like myself. And initially Stanley struggles to say that. And to be honest, even as I'm saying those words, it feels strange to say them. I think most people will agree to actually say, I like myself, is something that we're not necessarily conditioned to do. And that's a problem. That in itself is a problem. And I challenge anybody watching either the cartoon or listening to me now to say those words out loud. I think it feels strange. And that is very telling about how we're conditioned to think about ourselves and the fact that we shouldn't have this level of what one might conceive as hubris, but actually, as Nathan helps us to realise, it's really important to be able to like yourself. And of course, we're often told if you can't love yourself, how can anybody else love you? Which I think is not necessarily the healthiest way to look, but it does start with learning to like yourself and learning that actually, even if society might think, or by society's standards, if you might not be, society's answer to beauty, who cares? As long as you're happy with the way you look, that is all that matters. And not only do we have a very actionable way of learning this with Stanley saying, I like myself, but we then have a delightful song as well. Stanley and Nathan then break into this beautiful song, and it's a really lovely way to end things. And of course, it's a really fabulous story. Stanley the Ugly Duckling is a real delight. And if you're a fan of the story of the Ugly Duckling, or indeed if you're currently having self-esteem issues, then I'd say it's definitely worth watching. I certainly enjoyed it.